7-foot midget walks into a bar with a practicing licensed attorney under one arm and an active published author under the other. The bartender takes one look and says, "I am Evo Terra," and this is the Books Beer Hangout. Thank you, and welcome to another Books and Beer Hangout. Our topic today is copyright realities for digital authors. We have with us Ruth Carter, licensed attorney and self-declared pure ball of awesome, and Matthew Wayne Selznick, creator, author, and consultant. Welcome, both of you. Ruth, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, my name is Ruth Carter. I own Carter Law Firm in Phoenix, Arizona, and I focus on business formation and contracts, intellectual property, internet law with a focus on social media, and flash mob law.
Right, Matthew.
My name is Matthew Wayne Selznick. I'm a creator who works with words, music, pictures, and sometimes people. I'm also an author, and through my company MWS Media, I help other authors and other creative types bring their works to fruition and to market.
Well, welcome to the program, both of you. Let's take care of the beer section of the show, if we can begin with that. What are we drinking today? I have another Deviant Dale's, my favorite brewery, the Oskar Brewing Company. It's my last one, but right after this show, I'm headed to Total Wine to buy a whole bunch more. So that's me. Jeffrey, what are you enjoying tonight?
I also have a repeat from a previous show, a Black Eye IPA, one of our home brews that we did, and one I'm extremely fond of. So that's mine.
Good stuff. Matthew, I know you're drinking with us as well.
Yes, I've got a Stone IPA. It was the last beer in the fridge. So.
In a Spider-Man glass. How awesome was
that?
that?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Disney.
Yeah, that's all right. We will definitely, we'll have to talk about that in a minute. We'll take the Stone. You know it's a favorite of ours over here. And Ruth, I know you're not a big beer drinker, and by that, you don't drink at all. What are you drinking?
I am drinking my classic Diet Pepsi tonight.
Awesome. So, I think both of you, well, perhaps one of you more than the other, has just had one instance of perhaps a copyright violation right there. And so maybe since our topic of tonight is digital copyrights and the realities for authors, we should deal with that. So Ruth, being the licensed attorney, Matthew just held up a glass with Spider-Man on it. You just held up a glass with Pepsi on it. Who violated copyright, or none of the above?
Oh, that's getting tricky. So you get copyright when you have an original work of authorship fixed in a tangible medium. So I held up a Pepsi can, so that's probably trademarked. He held up a picture of Spider-Man. And really, you only have to worry about copyright violations if someone's going to sue you. So the question is the person who owns the copyright to the image of Spider-Man watching this show, and do they give a shit that Matt held up the glass, or are they happy that they are promoting Spider-Man? I would think that they would be happy. So, game on.
Listen, I've met Stan Lee, and I'm pretty sure he'd be thrilled to death someone's drinking a beer out of a Spider-Man glass.
Yeah.
So, obviously, softball's question with that one there. Something back to more specifically. So, when authors face copyright issues, and Matthew, you're obviously an active author. You've got several different books to your credit. I know you've been, I don't want to say loose with your copyright, but you have definitely explored some of the edges of a copyright layer called Creative Commons, and so I want to get to that. So maybe we should start there. Your book, let's see, which one do I want to talk about?
Brave Men Run?
Yeah, let's talk about that first. I don't want to talk about, because you've done some other stuff as well, but Brave Men is probably the first one to start with, the first of the Sovereign Era. So as I understand it, that book was released under a Creative Commons license for the podcast version, but that's the serialized audiobook version you made, but you also released that book in print. Did both of those versions, both of those fixed tangible mediums have different layers of copyright on them?
You're right about the audio. That was under the usual Creative Commons attribution, no derivatives, non-commercial license. The text of that book was released under the Developing Nations license for Creative Commons, which I'm not even sure still exists as a going concern. But basically, that license allowed people in developing nations, as defined by the World Bank, to make stuff with that text. to publish, to make plays, derivative works, whatever. And that's probably a very small gesture toward allowing people to use creativity to develop economies in places where it might not be as easy. So those were the two different licenses on two different forms of that particular title.
So to that end, and Ruth, I want to ask you a question about this. So the idea here is your book is released under copyright protections, obviously, so that if I get a copy of it here in the States, not a developing nation, last I heard, although we're headed that way, I obviously cannot make a derivative work of that. But if somebody lives in Somalia or some other country which would technically be listed as a developing nation by the World Bank, they could make a derivative work and even make money off of that. That was the general idea, correct?
Based on what Matt said, yeah, that's how it sounds to me. So yeah, Evo, if you want to make a derivative work, move to Somalia. It didn't say you can't, fuck with the system to get what you want.
Have you had anyone actually take that and use it going forward? Have you actually had derivative works in those particular countries that?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Have you had anyone take that and try to do a derivative work in the U.S. or abuse that in some other way?
No, not at all. In fact, it's kind of a point of pride that I must be doing something right with my distribution. For years now, I've trolled the torrent networks looking for my work, and it's never there. So either I'm just not popular enough, or it's easy enough to get in other forms that people don't feel the need to break the copyright on it. I have had people come to me. There's a very small game developer, tabletop role-playing game developer, who wanted to adapt the characters for his role-playing system, and I allowed that on a non-exclusive basis. But yeah, no, it's been fine.
On the flip side of it, are there any works that you have actually used, taken advantage of Creative Commons, and adapted or brought into your own work?
Absolutely. Most of the short stories that I have available incorporate images that are, non-commercial derivative attribution licensed. So without that, I'd be spending a lot of money at iStock Photo.
So Ruth, let me ask you from the point of view of to get the legalness out of this one. So Matt just admitted to using Creative Commons license. He's just admitted to having his work out there in Creative Commons. What if somebody wants to use Creative Commons licensed work, or perhaps even copyrighted work? What should they do for the creative out there that wants to incorporate some other licensed work, either Creative Commons or just copyrighted?
Well, okay, so let's say something comes with Creative Commons. I use images from Creative Commons all the time on my blog. So what you have to do is read the license and make sure that that you're complying with it. Like, well, all of them require an attribution, but some of them put limits on it, like you can't adapt it or you can't commercialize. When I pick images, I only pick images that I can adapt and commercialize. So that way I can crop the photo and no one has an issue with it, or no one can claim to have an issue with it. And then I always use images I can commercialize, even when my blog wasn't making me any money, or like not directly making me any money, because someday it might. And when that happens, you don't want to have to go back and change all your images, because that would suck. On the flip side, if something is protected by copyright, all rights reserved, the copyright holder owns all the rights. So if you want to do anything with it, if you want to copy it, distribute it, make a derivative work from it, unless you're going to try to do something that's so different with it that you might qualify for fair use, they can sue you and win a lot of money, potentially, if you use their stuff. So if there is someone's stuff that you want to use, the way to get around it is you just send them an email and ask them and say, hi, I like your stuff. May I use your picture for my blog, my PowerPoint, my whatever, my book? Every time I've done that, they've always said yes.
So now I have a question for you, Ruth. And in my experience on this topic, there's a spectrum where, you know, a lot of people put out work and they don't care at all. They don't think about how to protect it under any kind of licensing. And then you're on the other end of that spectrum as an attorney who probably worries about this a lot more than just about anybody. It's your job to worry about this. So what do you most worry about personally in terms of protecting your own intellectual property and material that you're putting out there that you think perhaps a lot of authors and a lot of people don't consider?
For now, I have not registered any of my copyrights. I have just recently learned the best way to register a blog at the Copyright Office. So from that perspective, I don't have a whole lot of protection on my stuff, but the best way I know to keep track of it is to run Google searches and have Google updates that let me know if someone is plagiarizing my stuff. So I will put a key phrase in the Google alert that I think someone might copy. But that's really the best thing you can do unless you really want to maximize your protection. Then you want to register your copyright within 3 months of publication, and then when you notice that someone's stealing your stuff, go after them.
You know, does somebody have to actively monitor for people using their copyrighted material? Or if I find out somebody wrote something 2 years ago and it just never came to my attention until now, can they claim, oh, well, I assumed it was okay since no one said anything for so long? Or do you give up anything by not actively looking for violations?
You don't actively give up any rights by not looking. It's up to the person who's creating new content to make sure that they're not infringing on other people's stuff. Yeah, the responsibility is on them. The issue with content creators is you have to register your copyright within 3 months of publication or 1 month of learning of the infringement, whatever happens first, to maximize your protections. And that could be the difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars if you choose to sue somebody for copyright infringement. And I recently had someone come to me who had not registered a copyright in a photograph, and if he had to sue him, he wouldn't have been able to win very much, versus if he had registered his copyright, he would have been looking at $150,000 plus attorney's fees easily.
Wow, that's pretty substantial.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we find ourselves in this new digital world of 2012, which we're halfway through, which is kind of mind-blowing. There's a lot of copying of files that happens now that didn't happen before. It used to be in the old style of publishing is that an author would write a book and submit a manuscript, and it would get typeset, and it would get formatted, and then suddenly bound, and everybody's got these print books out there, and copying really meant using a photocopy, or I guess all the way back, scribing it by hand, which is by definition self-limiting. But we live in a digital age now, and authors are now writing things digitally. They're sharing those files through various digital places online where they're getting reviews and feedback, and then they're creating a new digital version that gets uploaded to as an ebook, and then even a digital file is used to make just about every book that's in print right now. So Matthew, from a creator's point of view, I think your own personal answer is not at all, but how much concern do we have that copyrights might be somehow at jeopardy in the way we've expressed them in the past, from that creator's point of view?
Copyright in jeopardy. See, when I think of copyright, I think of the license, the limited license, or rather the limited, time-limited permission to license your material to others. And you're asking, because of rampant copying, is that at risk? Is that ability to benefit from those licenses at risk? Is that right?
Yeah, fair statement.
I don't really think so. I don't think that there's. I don't think there's enough of a demand on most of the stuff that is being created. Usually copying is a result of illicit copying is a result of two things. It's extreme popularity and inability to get it at a price that the market, meaning the audience, thinks is fair. We see a little bit of this issue. I guess the big standard bearer right now is Game of Thrones, right? People really want to see it. They want to pay money for it, but you have to subscribe to HBO and get all the rest of their crap, including movies from the 90s at 8 o'clock at night, if you want to watch Game of Thrones. So people pirate it. This is kind of what I was alluding to earlier when I said that I never see my stuff on the torrent networks. It's because my novels are $2.99. They don't have any digital rights management on them. You can get them anywhere you want to give money to. So I think as long as you make your stuff accessible and you make it clear that it's not for free, it's not out there for anyone to do whatever they want with it, I don't think there's much of a concern. I hope that answered the question.
No, that does. I'm sorry, Jeff. Let me just ask Ruth a quick little follow-on question that goes with that. So making it available is a big thing. But Ruth, one of the challenges challenge is not the right word. One of the complaints that has become a perennial issue is when a new file sharing service that an author might want to use just to save his book. I'm thinking like cloud storage spaces. There's been a lot of argument over that. Is that these services are asking for your copyright. You're uploading this material, and of course they're doing it under the guise of being able to make copies so that you can access those copies anywhere, but there's a lot of uproar every time that Dropbox, the service comes along and says, hey, everything you upload to us, we own. I personally think it's misguided from an author to be worried about that, because I don't think that's what they're actually after and looking for, but you're the attorney here. Am I wrong?
I think you should read the terms and conditions carefully before you use a service to make so you know what you're potentially giving up. I think people like Dropbox have an obligation to really specify what they want to do. Like if they're going to help you distribute your files the way you want to, say that. Don't say that we own everything or that we have the right to sell it like what Pinterest did recently. No, just say what you mean and mean what you say. And then it kind of comes down to buyer beware. Take the risks you want. And like Matt said, if you don't think anyone's going to steal your stuff, or if they are, it's going to be so low that you don't really care, then so be it. If Dropbox owns a copy of your book or your file.
Yeah, I think like with the Dropbox example, think of it this way: you're licensing a copy of your work in tangible form to Dropbox so that they can provide you with a service. It's a fair trade, I think, and I think you see a lot of sort of knee-jerk, what are they trying to do? What are they going to do in 10 years with my files and my baby pictures and whatnot? Number one, Dropbox doesn't care about your baby pictures, and it probably also doesn't care about your Great American Novel, because it's probably not any good or worth selling anyway. And number one, number two, number three. And the other side, don't they have to kind of say, look, we have, by uploading your files, you're giving us the right to duplicate these files in ways that maybe we can't predict in order to provide you with the service that you've signed up for.
Exactly.
So it's much ado about nothing, I think, so far.
So Matthew, backing out a level, so as a author, as a content creator, what are you most personally worried about somebody doing with your work? What are you trying to prevent? And do you think our current suite of copyright laws and Creative Commons licenses and everything else are sufficient for that, or is there a gap in there somewhere still?
What am I trying to prevent in terms of my content?
Yeah, just personally. Are you worried somebody's going to rip it off and put their name on it and republish it? I mean, just
no.
The alleys aside, the different licenses and things that you put on your work, what are you trying to accomplish?
To not be obscure. Look, I look at it this way. You use the example of somebody taking your work and slapping a different name on it maybe and trying to sell it in the Kindle store or whatever, which happens not infrequently. there are precautions you can take against that. You just have to look out for it. You have to make sure, that your stuff is actually registered, with the Office of Copyright, and be on the lookout for that. But really, if I did notice that some of my stuff was being pirated, non-commercially, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. That's part of a creator's marketing budget, is the alleged lost sales that you might be experiencing because of illicit duplication. I hesitate to use the word piracy because I think that's a phrase or a word that's tossed around in order to amplify the issue and make it seem more horrible than it is. These are not Somalians on boats with rifles. These are, it's you and you and you and you. And I'm looking at you. That was for the audience. I think it was Cory Doctorow who brought up the point that the people who pirate your stuff, who steal your stuff, are not your target audience, and because they didn't spend any money on it anyway. You didn't lose anything. You didn't gain anything except possibly another reader, a new member of your audience who, if your work is worth anything, will turn around and probably support you in the future. It's marketing. So no, long answer to the question. There's nothing I'm really concerned about, short of somebody attempting to make commercial gain from my work without my say-so.
I think those are very good tips. So we're nearing close to the end of the show. I want to give each of you a chance to answer a quick question here. And Ruth, I'm not going to give you the last word because lawyers are all buzz killers. So Matt gets to bring us up in a minute. But tips. Ruth, you've got an author out there who's going to go digital for maybe the first time and is a little bit concerned about life in there. What's the one thing that you want to tell that author to, when you go digital, be sure that you
register your copyright. Spend the $35 and get your work in the U.S. Copyright Office. That just maximizes your protection if and when you choose to exert your rights.
And they can do all that on their own? Easy, simple? They need to hire somebody? What?
If you want to hire somebody, you can, but, feel free. But, at $35 at a form is what it all takes, and you can do it online if you want to do it yourself. Okay. And so, Matt, a similar question to you. Other than embrace DRM because it's here to stay, what do you, kidding, obviously, what would you suggest to the new creator jumping in the marketplace? Give me your 1 second, 1 minute tip.
Get things out there in as many formats as you think your audience is going to consume, and go to where the audience is. So yes, digital. So yes, print if you think the genre calls for it. Possibly podcast. Whatever the genre is appropriate for, go to where the audience is and make it easy for them to get the stuff in the way that they want to consume it.
Thank you very much, both of you, Matt and Ruth. Really appreciate your time. Evo, always nice having you here as well. So that's been another episode of Books and Beer, and we'll have all the show notes and links so you can explore some of the topics raised here. And thanks for joining.
Thanks.